Alright, time for another random video. I was just watching some random stuff. I'll probably make a bunch of these based off of stuff that I see just in my free time, because I was watching a video questioning the stoned ape theory. Really smart guy on Joe Rogan, talking about how it couldn't have affected us genetically and the increase in our brain size if we were just eating psychedelic mushrooms. And then he also said that Terence McKenna, if you pressed him on his own hypothesis of the stoned ape, it wasn't convincing to him either. And I didn't know Terence McKenna. I'm not as old as that very wise gentleman on Joe Rogan, or have had all the time to research that he has had in his life. But I've watched one video of Terence McKenna explaining the stoned ape theory, and that the genetic effect is the mutagenic properties of the new foods. One thing that I never understood about evolution was that the mutations that are beneficial for survival get implemented into the next line of offspring if it is actually beneficial for survival. So the amount of mutations that would take place to get the vast differences in life forms that we have today, he explains that at that time our food sources were changing because of the pressure of the climate moving out of the canopy across the Sahara. And he explains that when your food sources change, new mutagens enter your body, new mutations become observable in the offspring, and that's how evolution happens. So I don't know how the mutations, according to that gentleman, take place, but I would have to say that Terence McKenna would be convinced by his own theory that a genetic mutation could take place, not necessarily by eating psychedelic mushrooms alone, but by the very stoned ape hypothesis of they found them because they were trying new food sources under nutritional pressure, moving across the plains out of the canopies for the first time. It is a hypothesis, but the only reason that you can't throw it out with the bathwater is because it speaks to the mystery of the human brain size. That's still a mystery. So if it's at the same place in the same time as the human increase in brain size, and you say, well, cultural evolution is explainable through the ingestion of psilocybin, but not genetic evolution, I would say, what kind of entity does not make a mutation based off some sort of internal change in that being? Like, at one point a otter figured out how to use a tool to crack open a clamshell. Was that because it didn't want to get inside the clamshell? No, that evolutionary trait, even though it's not genetic, so it doesn't support my point in this point, but it's not genetic, but the change first took place within the mind of the otter, and its need for nutrition and its need for that food source. So I think that very well genetic and fully observable, not just cultural evolution could take place from eating weird shit, especially weird shit you find growing out of turds. So yeah, watch the I don't remember what podcast it is, but it's a YouTube video that just says, "Is the stoned ape theory BS?" And that's the one that I'm kind of commenting on, because I've watched enough Terence McKenna. I just hate when people, unless it's his brother, talk about his opinions. If you listen to him a lot, he spoke in so many words that, yes, if you were there and you were there and able to ask Terence questions, it would break down on some degree. If you asked him about time, wave zero, and his theory about novelty, it's going to come down to him explaining to you that he had that revelation studying the I Ching high on mushrooms in a cabin somewhere in the Amazon, probably. It's not the scientific study that you want to hear coming out with these ideas, but the point is that there's a whole realm of ideas that we do not observe because it's considered not ignorant, but asinine, because it comes from these psychedelic states. So I do think that Terence was convinced by his own theories. I just think he was also at the same time aware that it was his career, and that it benefited more to keep people kind of mind-boggled than it did to let them continue to break down his scenarios. So for now.